Well, hello, this is Jeff Gaudiosi, and you're on misplacedstraws.com, where music comes to life. My guest today is making his second appearance on the site. We last spoke about 2 years ago when he released his album, The Phoenix. He has a new record coming out now called Vortex, which is out July 1st, which once again shows off his amazing skills alongside some of the greatest guitar players in the world. Please welcome Mr. Derek Sherinian. Welcome, Derek.
Hey, Jeff, how you doing? Thanks for having me on today.
I'm doing great. It's my pleasure. So, this new record, Vortex, now, especially with the return of the amazing Simon Phillips and Tony Franklin, it kind of feels like a natural evolution from the Phoenix. And it's been a long time since you've done back to back solo records. Did some of the writing for both of these kind of overlap a little bit?
It didn't really overlap, but before the Phoenix was released, there was like a 7 month or 8 month period that I started getting to work on Vortex, and I wrote a couple songs during the 8 month period just to get ahead of the game. And so Simon and I just had such a great time writing the Phoenix, and our energy was still up. And when we got back together to write, it felt like a continuation.
And when it comes to guests, you have some of the familiar faces back on this record with you, Steve Stevens, Joe Bonamassa, Bumblefoot, Steve Lukather, Zach Wilde. But you also have a couple of first timers, Nuno Bettencourt, the criminally underrated Mike Stern, Michael Shanker as well. And I was particularly really surprised to see that you had never worked with Nuno Bettencourt before. It seems like the two of you would really mesh well. What was it like not only playing with him, but you also co-wrote a track with him on here?
Well, with Nuno?
Yes.
Well, no, we didn't co-write, but Nuno, this is his first record, like you said, that he played on. Nuno and I first started playing together in 2017 on the Generation Axe tour, and we got on really well. And so when it came time to do this solo record, I invited him to play, and when he agreed, I was very happy because he has a great energy in his playing, very Van Halen swagger and energy, and I love it.
Yeah, and he just seems like the kind of player that fits your style really well. Like on the track you guys do together, it's just a great blending of the two of you on that song.
For sure. I mean, we grew up, well, first of all, we were both born in 1966, and in the Chinese horoscope, that's the fire horse. That's the name of the title. So that's there. And we're both into Van Halen big time, and Jeff Beck, and there's a lot of common things that we're into. So yeah, I felt great. I love Nuno's playing. He's a great guy, and I'd love to work with him anytime. He's welcome on anytime to play.
Yeah, and again, talk about some of the new guys, Michael Shanker. And it's funny because I've talked with a couple of vocalists that have worked with him over the years, and they always say how much they love working with him because he kind of, sets a canvas and gives them the breath to do whatever they need to do. As a fellow musician, what's it like playing alongside of him?
Well, I haven't played alongside of him because it's all been done remotely. And when he asked me to play on his album Immortal in 2000, all the COVID restrictions were in, so there was no traveling. Everything was done by remote. And so he asked me to play on his track. I was very stoked to be asked by him because he was one of my heroes from way back, UFO, and then he put out MSG1, and that was the first time I ever heard of Simon Phillips, was on the Michael Shanker album. And then he played just all throughout the years, he's been a hero. So when he called me in 2000, that was great. I played my tracks, and his manager called me afterwards and said, Michael loves your playing. He loves the tracks and everything. And oh my God. And it's going to be the leadoff track on the album. I go, oh, great. He goes, well, how much do we owe you? I go, I can't charge Michael Shanker. He's my hero. I go, but if he wants to play on my next record, that would be fantastic. And he goes, done. And so that was it. And I wrote a song, Die Cobra, on Vortex in honor of Michael Shanker because I love him and his playing so much. And it's great to have him and Simon on the same track.
And kind of digressing a bit briefly, you mentioned recording remotely now. In a record like this, where you have some pretty complex arrangements and you're bringing in, and even with the case of Die Cobra, I believe Zach Wild's on that track too, where you're
Mhm.
bringing in multiple guitar players as well as your stuff, and Simon and Tony. What's the process like to try to combine all of that remotely into his track?
Well, the main thing is the structure is there. I mean, the grid is there, the basic, harmony of the song when we send it to these people. And if they have to learn specific lines, then they have to learn it and play it in time. Something like Bumblefoot, I mean, the song that he plays on Aurora Australis, which is the trilogy, the epic of the album, there's some pretty gnarly lines in there. And we knew that he would be the only one that could get it done.
And you had Steve Stevens on, who you worked with in the early 2000s with some of the Billy Idol records
Yeah.
back then. What was it like kind of reconnecting with Steve and collaborating with him on this? Because Steve's another one of those guys I just never think gets the credit he deserves for being the
No,
guitar
he only
player.
got a Grammy, and he's played with Michael Jackson, and he's been on MTV, and he's lived the life of a rock star since he's 20. Whenever someone says, "Oh, he's unsung hero" and all this stuff, it's like, what are you talking about? The guy's a total rock star. Steve is awesome, and this is the third record he's played on since 2004, and he's great. And not only is he playing, but he co-wrote 2 songs. He's co-written on my past albums as well. And Simon and I really enjoy collaborating with him. So, Steve is another one of those players that has an open invitation on whenever I'm making a record. If he wants to play and send some riffs over, we always are open to playing with him.
It was cool too on this record to hear Mike Stern. And for those who don't know, Mike has played with people like Billy Cobham and Miles Davis and some real legends. And considering all of the styles that you're playing encompasses, when you bring in a jazz guy like Mike in there, I mean, has it ever gone through your head would you ever do like an acoustic piano straight up jazz record?
Well, and funny you should ask, sir. My next record that I'm working on with Simon is going to be straight piano trio, and that's the next phase, man.
Yeah, because as I'm listening to the track with Mike, that's what's going through my head is, God, I'd love to hear you just go like kind of a little out of your wheelhouse and tackle something like that. So
I'll tell you what, though, I'm practicing every day to get to that point. I have my work cut out, and I'm humbled on the piano because there's some really amazing pianists out there that are just fucking amazing and killer. So I have my work cut out, and I love it.
That's fantastic. I can't wait to hear that. And when we spoke last time, and you mentioned him again this time, I asked you who your dream collaborator would be, and you said Jeff Beck, who's my all-time favorite guitar player. Yeah. And while he's not on this record, when I heard Key Lime Blues with Joe Bonamassa and Steve Lukather, I immediately went to my favorite period, which is Blow by Blow and Wired.
Oh, of course, 100%. Yeah, right on the money. Good ears. And
yeah, I was going to say, is that where your head was when you were putting it together?
Of course. And so, since we can't get Jeff Beck, the next best thing is the Lukather and Joe, because they love Jeff Beck too, and so they go in and pay their homage.
Well, and it's not only what they played, I think it's the sound you got too, just completely nails that, like I said, that Blow by Blow Wired period.
Oh, well, here's the thing. Both, totally. I mean, I love it. Simon obviously played with Jeff Beck. Luke produced, I think, did some work with Jeff Beck, and Joe Bonamassa loves Jeff Beck. We all do. We all admire him very much. But that session with Joe and Luke on Key Lime Blues happened a year ago today.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it did. It's funny because it came up today on my Facebook. Yeah, a year ago today, they drove up from LA. Joe was kind enough to pick Luke up and bring him up to Ojai. And it's been a long time since all 4 of us have been together. And it was great getting in the studio, the 2 of them together. I got some cool footage. I'm going to post some today on Instagram of that session. I'll post everything I have. But fantastic. And the track turned out amazing. And it was a great hang.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, for a guy like me, so Jeff Beck was always my favorite guitar player. I think that's my favorite song on the record. It's like, as soon as I heard it, it's one of those where you just stop what you're doing and listen because you're like, yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, and that's my debut Hohner clavinet on the track, playing clav. So,
Oh, nice. And we mentioned Bonamassa, and you and Joe, there's something very special about the sound you guys make together. It's I think you complement each other perfectly. And it's kind of weird because I think, coming from the outside, you may not think, well, this blues guy and this kind of prog guy, but when you get together, you guys meld seamlessly.
can I
Um,
say something at the
yeah,
risk of sounding cocky? I
sure.
sound great with whoever I play with. It's the same thing. It's the same deal. I blend in with whoever it is, and I play off of their strengths, and I'm able to be a chameleon, but at the same time, impose my signature sound in whatever climate I'm in. And so that's the key right there.
Yeah, and and I don't think that's cocky at all because it goes to the point of when you
Well, I
bring
mean,
in.
it's factual though. If you look
Yeah,
at it, I mean, it's proof is in the pudding.
yeah, well, exactly. When you bring in all of these different style guitar players, but yet it all flows together and it sounds like a cohesive record. And that's because there's a glue that holds it all together and
Yeah.
adapts to it. And that's your playing.
And also a huge part of it is Simon Phillips
Mhm.
too. His quality control and his ears and seasoning when we're putting this stuff together. I mean, I don't want to use the word guardrails, but we're each other's guardrails
Mhm.
because sometimes he gets a little too jazzy and I have to go, hey, wait, this isn't the baked potato. We need to make this a little bit more rock. And sometimes
Yeah.
I'm a little bit more bonehead and he reels me in. So that's the great thing of collaborating with him is we have that little bit of creative tension, but it always turns out awesome.
Yeah. And with Bonamassa, of course, you guys have the history with Black Country Communion. Any chance of a fifth record from that group
Oh,
down
I
the
hope so. I mean, every presidential term we seem to crank out a record, so I think it's about time.
time to put one out?
Yes.
And, we mentioned also another bandmate of yours, Bumblefoot, that's on the record, and you guys have Sons of Apollo, and you'll finally get the chance to play your South American dates rescheduled from the 2020 tour coming up. And for you, what's your mindset as you go back into a set that you played 2 years ago? I mean, are you kind of itching for new material or are you getting comfortable again playing that
I
2020
haven't
set?
delved in yet. I'm gonna
Mhm,
delve in I think third week of July
mhm.
because our rehearsals start the 5th or something like that. So I'll need a couple weeks to brush off the cobwebs. So I'll let you know.
Yeah, and also in Sons of Apollo, your former Dream Theater bandmate Mike Portnoy, and a lot was made recently when Mike popped into a Dream Theater show, and I mean, as a founding member, he has all of that history. You were there with him for Falling into Infinity and Once in a Lifetime.
Yeah.
Now, you and Mike have always seemed to have a great relationship, but do you feel any kind of kinship toward that band, or do you just see it as sort of, well, it was a project I worked on along with all the other bands you've played with?
Look, Dream Theater was a very important part of my career, and there was a lot of musical growth that I went through during that time. I think if you listen to my playing before I went in and listen to it afterwards,
Mhm.
you can see that there was massive growth, like in a lot of areas, not only technique, but my signature sound developed on that Falling into Infinity album.
Mhm.
I think that's where it all started to blossom. And there was a lot that I learned in that band, and it was great to carry on. It was kind of like the best finishing school after, Alice Cooper, Kiss, then Dream Theater, and then it was time to go out and make my solo records and go out and start my career for real. And I just had great, you know, experiences with all the bands I've played with: Alice, Kiss, Ingve, John Sykes,
Mhm.
Steve Vai, Zach.
Mhm.
The list is long and strong.
Mhm. And I've asked this question to kind of a few people over the years. You know, way back when you look at sort of like the 80s and 90s, you were in a band, you played in that band, and very seldom did anybody in a band go out and do something different. Whereas these days, everyone kind of has multiple projects going on.
Yeah.
As a musician, do you like the freedom of having multiple projects, or do you kind of long for the days when you could just concentrate on one band and not have to do all of these other things?
I wish it could just be one cool band,
Mhm.
one great cool band like Metallica
Yeah.
or, you know, AC/DC, Led Zeppelin. You know, I think it's cool to do solo records, and that's cool. But I don't know. To me, I don't want to be that guy in a million bands. I would rather I want to be in one really strong band.
Mm.
Otherwise, I want to play jazz, make jazz records with Simon.
There you go. I mean, I got to tell you, I'm so excited to hear
I am
that.
too. And honestly, I'm at a point now, I'm getting older now, and my eyes, I can't fucking read the keyboards, the presets when I'm playing live anymore. I can't see it. Everything is too small. And so I think it's just easier for me to play piano because there's nothing except the keys, and I can see those. And on B3, I know where the drawbars and pedals and stuff are.
Yeah.
So I
And
think
now,
that's where we're going.
we mentioned the Sons of Apollo dates coming up in South America. You have any other live plans for the
Yes,
rest of
we
this
have
year?
one. We have there's a festival in Armenia called the Starmus Festival, and it's a merger of science and music, and it's fantastic. The greatest science minds are going to be there, as well as music. Sons of Apollo is going to be playing there, and also my trio with Simon, and also quartet with Bumblefoot to
Oh,
play the
wow.
electric stuff. So it's going to be 3 nights that are going to be played, which I'm very excited about. And what was I going to say? That's it as far as for Sons of Apollo. But with Simon, we're going to be playing the shows in Armenia and also a show in Ventura, California, August 29th at the Grape. And it's going to be billed as Derek Sherinian and Simon Phillips. And we're going to take this out on the road, hopefully, with this lineup. And hopefully Bumblefoot will want to play with us after these shows and go out and see what we can do.
Well, hopefully we'll get to see you out here on the East Coast. Would love to be
Oh,
able to
I'd
catch you
hope
live
so.
again.
I would love it, man. That would be really great.
Well, we've been spending some time here with Derek Sherinian. The record is called Vortex. It's out everywhere July 1st. It's a fun listen. It's a great record. Derek, best of luck with the record. Best of luck with the Sons of Apollo shows coming up. And hopefully we can catch you live soon.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on today, and have a fantastic day.
You too, Derek. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yep, bye.